It's coming up on exactly 2 months since I moved here to Krakow from Los Angeles. I'd long wanted to live in a country that had a completely different culture, a non-English speaking country, something that would be a complete change to try and come and live in. So when I got the opportunity to come to Poland and to Krakow in particular, after spending all my career in the UK and the USA, this was exactly the sort of thing that I was looking for. So I moved here in December 2020, right in the midst of the pandemic. And a lot of people said to me, "You must be crazy. Why would you go from Los Angeles, that many people think is one of the most exciting, if not most exciting city in the world and best city in the world to live in? Why would you go to Poland?" So as well as suiting me for a bunch of personal reasons, what I found here in 2 months is it's what a fantastic city it is. It's been such a joy here exploring the city so far, but it's a completely different experience to Los Angeles. So thought I'd do a little bit of a comparison of both of these cities that I love and the differences between them, but why I'm enjoying Krakow just as much as I was enjoying Los Angeles. So where do I start about my beloved Los Angeles? Well, two of the first things that come to mind are the glorious weather and the fabulous beaches. Los Angeles enjoys pretty much year-round sunshine. It does get very hot in some of the summer months, but in the autumn and the winter months, the sky stays blue pretty much, and the sun is shining and the days are warm. The beaches are, of course, fantastic and just run for mile after mile after mile up the Pacific coast. I was fortunate to live very, very close to Santa Monica, so spent a lot of time there. It has its fantastic pier. It's a great city, and you've got the long stretches of beautiful beaches on Malibu as a neighboring town. That beautiful climate just gives rise to the most spectacular sunsets, and I used to like nothing more than going down in the late afternoon and just hanging out for a few hours and watching the sunset over the sea, which was just utterly fantastic, and you could never get bored of that. Los Angeles has so many buildings that just have wonderful rooftops. So on many a late afternoon, early evening, you could just go up to the rooftop. I had a great one on my apartment block and just take in that amazing sunset night after night. And absolutely one of the things I'm going to miss the most about living in LA. So turning to Krakow, first thing is apparently that's how we should say it. It's Krakow, not Krakow or Krakow, but Krakow. So that's how I'm trying to remember it, but I do occasionally slip in the odd Krakow. Can't help it. Weather is obviously completely different to Los Angeles. Absolutely 4 distinct seasons here, and even the 2 months that I've been here since December, I've kind of had those 4 different seasons in those 2 months already. Had some really warm, nice days, then some very cold, wintry, icy and snowy days, wet and grey days, and everything in between. But I got to say, I kind of like that. I am European, and I come from the north of England, so my DNA is used to that, I guess. But I do like the variety. I think I did miss that sometimes in Los Angeles. Because I don't have a car, the snow and ice is not really proving a great hindrance to me. So I can enjoy it when the city looks as pretty as it does in the snow. Number one thing to love about the city, I think, is the history. It's just got the most amazing history. Krakow is rightly known in Poland as the city of the kings. It was the capital of Poland for a long, long time before Warsaw became capital. And when you get here, you will see why it's called the City of the Kings, because it's just the architecture and the castle and the cathedrals and the whole city just feels very regal. It feels like one of the great European cities, but it's also got more recent history with the Second World War, which is hugely significant as well for this city. The story of the Jewish population and the persecution of the Jews in Poland, very relevant for me living here in the Jewish town and very close to the Jewish ghetto. So history and a variety of weather, two of the main things. So how Christmassy did it make me feel being here in a real winter in this beautiful old city of Krakow? Well, those who know me know I never sing, but I was inspired to do a little bit of singing. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones I used to know. And I called it Krakow, didn't I? The minute I said, you have to call it Krakow, first time I do a little bit of video, and I immediately say Krakow. I think I'm going to struggle with my pronunciation while I'm living here. But that little bit of singing leads us very nicely into the next amazing thing to talk about with Los Angeles, and that is about it being the media and entertainment capital of the world. Los Angeles absolutely deserves its reputation as the media and entertainment capital of the world. Just some amazing one-off events that could only be done in Los Angeles, connected to the films. Every band that I loved always seemed to want to play in Los Angeles, so you got to see everybody you wanted to see, and world-class theatre as well. I really enjoyed some of the things related to the movies and the big movie franchises. I was lucky to see several Star Wars marathons up until the last 9 movie marathon. I went to a 22 movie marathon for the Marvel franchise, and Disney would roll out a lot of the stars and directors and stuff like that and just make them really fantastic one-off events. And the music venues in Los Angeles range from world-class huge venues to some of the best clubs that you could go to on the Sunset Strip, and many a great night I had at the Viper Room and the Whiskey A Go Go for sure. As far as my assessment of the food scene goes, I've only had 2 months in Krakow so far, but what I would say is for savory dishes, Los Angeles just provided so many wow moments, some spectacular restaurants, and really some of the best savory dishes you could have. But already after 2 months, I think Krakow is winning on the dessert side of things. Some of the cakes and pies that I've had here so far are utterly fantastic. On the shopping side of things, actually, I would say that I'm a little bit happier in Krakow than Los Angeles. Let's talk about supermarkets and malls. The supermarkets, I prefer the European supermarkets, and I really like the supermarkets here in Krakow. I prefer them to their equivalent in the US and Los Angeles. For me, maybe because I'm European, there were just so many things that I always had trouble finding in the US supermarkets. I honestly felt the US supermarkets were a little bit backwards compared to the UK and Europe. Just the quality of the breads and the cheeses and some of the pastries and desserts, I think, is better than the US, frankly. And on the malls, well, America is famous for its malls. And I gotta say, I really loved the Century City Mall that was in Los Angeles and very close to where I lived. But I've got 3 malls in very close proximity to my home in Krakow, and one of them is just 5 minutes walk away, and I like them very much. I'm very impressed by them. They're very modern, And they're just full of the sort of shops that you actually kind of need and want to go buy stuff. Not filled with all of the fancy designer boutiques, but just filled with lots of good practical clothing stores, electronic stores, and the malls also typically have the huge supermarkets in them as well. So a great sort of one-stop shop. Can be a little bit of a challenge though with the produce all being in Polish. I bought this carton of juice here thinking that it would be a delicious red apple juice, and then I took my first mouthful of it and got a shock when I swallowed a mouthful of beetroot juice. I've got to say that mouthful of beetroot juice wasn't so nice at all. It's one of the things that I like is the challenge of having to be in a country that speaks a completely different and, to me, difficult language. And it is kind of fun in the supermarket because, of course, everything is written in Polish. So I think about 75% of the time you can make a pretty good educated guess about what you're buying, but probably like 25% of the time you end up something quite different to what you thought you were getting. But I don't know, it's kind of part of the fun of it, I think. Okay, so here's one of the biggest pluses about Krakow over Los Angeles, and that is two things. Walkability of the city, being able to walk around and see a lot of things purely on foot, and public transportation. Krakow has a fantastic tram network, very affordable, super easy to book with the app on your phone, super frequent, and really a very pleasant way to get from A to B in the city. Of course, the cost of living here is so much lower than it is in Los Angeles. Los Angeles being one of the most expensive places you could choose to live on the planet. And I think Krakow is a very reasonably priced, great city in Europe. This is my apartment here. I pay half of what I paid for a much poorer and smaller space in Los Angeles. I couldn't be happier with what I get for the money in Krakow. Krakow, would you believe, is within a couple of 100 miles of Prague, Vienna, and Budapest in Hungary. And what it is, it's a city that is so well located for exploring within an hour or two's flight. So many wonderful locations within Greater Europe. Los Angeles can also be a springboard to other great destinations. Perhaps for me, the best of which was Las Vegas, which was a very short flight, or in fact even under 4 hours drive from Los Angeles to Vegas. I'm still discovering a little bit what this is going to be like in Krakow, but for sure Los Angeles is one of the most tolerant, diverse, multicultural and welcoming cities in the world, and absolutely one of the things that makes it a wonderful place to live. I am connected to 32,000 other expats in Krakow, and I'm hoping that I'm going to find that it's also a diverse and welcoming city. I'm sure it's going to be. With the pandemic, I really haven't been able to experience the arts and entertainment scene in Krakow to be able to talk about in comparison to Los Angeles. Although past that isn't true. I did catch some live music a couple of weeks ago.
Nice. Really nice.
So like I said, I'm only a couple of months into living in my new home of Krakow. I've got to say what I've seen so far, I've loved, and I'm really excited about the other things that I'm going to discover as hopefully we get past this pandemic. And then as the nicer weather comes and things hopefully begin to open up. So I hope to do a few more of these videos, talking a little bit about two cities which I've been lucky enough to live in and experience, which I think are just two fantastic places that we could choose to live. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like the kind of stuff that I'm doing, please like and subscribe to my channel. I do try and post something once a week, featuring my discovery around my new home in Krakow.